Hi, finally, let's start to develop our instant dictionary web app, and we are going to start from one of the web pages. So we have three web pages: about, dictionary, and home page. Let's start from the about page. It doesn't matter where you start from. So about.py is currently empty, and I'm going to keep this main.py, which is not related to our project, by the way, but I just want to show you the structure we had before and the structure we're going to have now with a larger app, so that you can compare things. Even though we'll have a different structure, we still need JustPy. So import JustPy as JP. And then, so what I'm thinking now is to have a class for every page. So in this case, we're going to have an about class. Why am I choosing to make a class for every page? Well, because every page is different. So what happens is that when the user visits, for example, your domain/about, we want to produce an instance of that about page. When the user visits your domain/home, we want to produce an instance of the home page. Therefore, I think it's meaningful to have different blueprints for every page, different classes for every page. For the about page, the about class constructs a particular about page which has a particular title, a particular description, maybe something else in the body of the page, pictures, images, etc. So if 10 users are visiting your web page, your about page, that means the same class, the about class, has created 10 object instances of the about page. So that's the idea. And I think it's meaningful to have a sort of a serve method to serve that page. And then in the method, we're going to have to do the construction of the quasar page. Quasar page is not to be confused with our page. So quasar page is also a class. About is also a class. But think of quasar page as the page, so they are both pages somehow, but think of quasar page as the page that has the visuals. So it's responsible for the HTML part and the CSS part, what the user is seeing. And the about page is more concerned about handling the URL, handling the routing. So we want to make the connection between the routing and the actual visual page, the actual quasar page. Therefore, for about, we also need a path variable. But I didn't create an init function because we're not going to need an init function for this page. But then you'd ask, if we don't have an init method, where would you put the path? Because normally we do init, self, and the attributes, the arguments, for example, path. But we have to ask the question, is path going to be different from different instances of this about class? The answer is no, because for each user, so each user will have a different instance, but all of them are going to have the same path, so your domain/about. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to have path as an instance variable. We have to use path as a class variable. So just here, path equal to about. Make some space. So path is part of the class. It makes more sense to be part of the class, since it's not going to change with instances. And then let's add like a div, like that. So that will be the main div that is going to contain the other divisions, the other components of the website. For example, let's say another div, which should be part of that div. So that div is part of WP, and this other div is part of this div. So a equal to div, text equal to, this is the about page. So that is the title of the content of the page. You're going to see how it looks like. I'm going to make this text quite large for XL. And a margin of 2. And then yet another div, which belongs again to the main division. That div. The text this time is going to be a long text. Therefore, I'm going to use triple quotes and split the line like that. And here between I can paste a long text, such as this one in here, some Latin text, which you can find online. Anyway, it's just some text. And then if you want to add some tailwind in here, which by the way I haven't enabled tailwind yet, so you want to do tailwind equal to true, because we are using quasar page, and with quasar page tailwind has to be explicitly set to true in order for this style to be evaluated, to be recognized by JustPy. So let's make text large, and that's all. And then once you have finished constructing your web page content, then you want to return WP. Once you are done with that, then close the class definition, and we want to route this class now to that path. A good way to do that is to use justpy.root, the root class, which expects 2 arguments: the path, which in our case is /about, that string, and the function to run, which in our case is the serve method. So how do we get this path? How do we refer to that in here? Well, this case is very special, and you're going to learn something very important here. Because here we are not going to instantiate the about class, because we don't know where to do it. Normally the way we instantiate classes is we say about equal to about, and then you pass some arguments in here. But this time it doesn't work like that, because this page, this class is going to be used when the user visits the URL path, so yourdomain.com/about. In that case, that is when we want to instantiate the class. Otherwise, we don't need to instantiate the class. If nobody is asking for an instance of this class, we don't need to do that. Therefore, we cannot use that way of instantiating the class. In fact, we are not going to instantiate the class at all. What we're going to do is we are simply going to refer to the class directly, like that, dot path. So you see that I didn't use parentheses here. So that means this is the class. This is the object instance. This is just a class. So don't confuse the two. And since path is part of the class, it's a class variable, we can access path. We have access to path just by doing dot path, about dot path. If path was part of the init method, so if init had path as a parameter, then we wouldn't be able to do this. But in this case we can. And then the function that serves the quasar page is about.serve. But be careful, not with parentheses. The root class expects just the function name or the method name, just like that. And then lastly you say jp.justpy, so the justpy function to actually start the process, the web server, to run the justpy app. And in this case I want to set a port 8001. I did that because the other port, so port 8000, is currently occupied by this other app. Therefore I had to write 8001 and then right click and run about. Go to 8001. Of course you'll see that the page was not found because you want to go to /about. And this is our page. And that's the code that builds our about page. In the next video, we are going to build the home page, and we are going to face a problem with our project structure there, and we are going to improve the project structure even more so that we are able to serve multiple pages. So talk to you in the next video.